Hi, welcome. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to today's live. We're going to be making a fantastic card using Stampin' Up! Supplies because I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I go live every Monday and Thursday at 2:30 right here on YouTube showing you guys some new fun fold usually or some technique. We're going to be doing 2-in-1 today and that we're doing a fun fold and a technique. And of course, all of the supplies I'm using can be purchased in my online store. I'm going to make a little disclaimer right off the bat that the two little poodles back there may go nuts because it's like 90 some degrees here. It's like 80 inside the house and the air conditioner went out. And so we called a repair guy and he's supposed to be here between 1 and 4. So he may show up in the middle of our live and he may not. But if they start barking, I apologize right off the bat. But I want the guy to come fix it because it's supposed to be really, really like hot, record-breaking hot for our area. I know I saw Janet say it's 111 in Vegas, but 95 up here is not good for me. Idaho was supposed to be cooler than this. So let me switch you down to my desk and I'll show you a close-up of our card. And it's using the Layers of Beauty bundle. And the bundle normally comes with a stamp set and a set of dies or sometimes a punch. But in addition to these two pieces, this one comes with a set of masks. And I'm going to be showing you today how we use those masks to create these flowers because they're not stamped at all. That is all done entirely using the stencils. Now I could have stamped in black and then colored it in. I could have stamped in basic beige and colored it in, which is gorgeous, by the way, because basic beige is just light enough that you can barely see it, but it gives a little more oomph to the flowers. But I wanted to show you just the masks today so you guys get a full idea of what they look like. And we're doing a angled gatefold, which is this one here. It does a gatefold, which is where they open, you know, the two sides, but then it's angled. And so with my stress level being what it is, with it being all hot and the repair guy coming, I'm hoping we get the fold that is in volume. So I'm just going to have that open to the side over here and refresh my memory as we go through and create this gorgeous card. So I've pre-cut all the pieces. So we're starting out with a piece of basic gray. That's what I'm using for the base. And this piece is 5.5 by 11. And then it is scored at 3 3/8 and 7 5/8. And so that's giving us the 4 1/4 in between those two. And then we're going to make some cuts for the angles on the side. I have a piece that is 1 1/4 inch by 11 inch, scored at 3 inches and a little over 7 1/4 because we wanted not 4 1/4 between here, but 4 3/8, just a little bit extra so that it has some play in it, that it will slide up and down. And then I have a piece of the Designer Series paper. I'm using the Country Lace. And I did kind of the same thing. I came over about 3 inches and then I went over from that a little over 4 1/4. Now, when I go ahead and I attach this to our cardstock, I'm not going to like lay it flat and glue it all the way across because then when I go to bend it, it would crease them right at the angles and we don't want it to do that. So when I adhere this, I'm going to be using my adhesive on the end on just this piece that I know is before the bend. So this is 1 by, I cut it down to 11. It was a 1 by 12, but then I'm going to let it fold over. Then I can come in and I can apply some adhesive in here. Okay, because I wanted that to have the pull that it's going to get by going over that score line before it's adhered. Then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to bring this over and again fold it one more time. And you can see how even though I cut this at like 11 1/8, it's still coming up shy here because it's taking a little bit of extra length to go around that. So then I can come in and put some more adhesive on this piece. Oops. Before I adhere them together. This one's a little wonky on me, but I want to make sure that I am straight across. And then once I am, we can decide if we're going to trim this up. It looks like we probably don't need to, because maybe I'll do it a little, but you would trim it up so that the seam is going to land underneath our focal point. Once we put it onto the card. And then I would normally lay it over the card before I adhere it, making sure that I have that little bit of extra wiggle room. Giving it room to slide on and off. Okay, so that's why it's a little more than 4 1/4, because I want it to be able to slide freely. Okay, for the front panels, I have 2 pieces that are 3 1/8 by 5 1/4. And I'm using 2 patterns that are very similar out of the same paper pack, the Country Lace. I had some little pieces of scrap left over. I'm going to use that on the inside. It's going to go onto our 4 by 5 1/4 inch layer for our inside of the card. And then we have some scrap that I'm going to be stamping onto for our flowers. Or not stamping, coloring onto, because it's not stamping. Okay, for this, I'm going to bring in a pencil. And what I want to do is come in on my base, and I'm going to come down 1 inch. Actually, let's do this in the trimmer so that we're even. So I'm going to lay this in at my 1 inch over here. And then getting the blades out of the way, I'm just going to make a little tick mark there. And a little tick mark over here. And because I'm within the track, I know that the top and the bottom marks are at the same point. And I mean, they're 1 inch, so they should be, but the trimmer keeps me honest. Okay, then I'm going to come over 1 inch. On each of the bottoms. Okay, then I'm going to cut from that 1 inch to this 1 inch, and then from that 1 inch up to the score line. And that's going to give us our angles. So laying these in the trimmer, I've got this tick mark at 1 inch and this tick mark at 1 inch. And we're going to cut between those two. And then I'm going to go from that fold over to that tick mark again and cut across there. Okay, so there's one angle. Yes, thank you, Ginger, for letting people know. Yes, our air conditioning went out and I'm expecting a repairman. He said between 1 and 4. It's 2:30. We'll see if he gives me time to finish up our live before he shows up. But I wouldn't put it past him to make me frazzled as I'm on here working with angles. Okay, so I went from the 1 inch up to that fold, and now I'm going to go from the 1 inch mark at the bottom to that 1 inch mark on the side. So now we have the 2 side angles. Then we're ready to do that with our paper. And so I know that I want to come down 1 inch on this side and come over 1 inch on here. And I want to make them on these sides so that my angles are correct. So I know I want that to be there. Oh, wait a minute. Come on. This to be, see, angles, I'm telling you. I want it down 1 inch. So not over, over on the bottom. So over on the bottom at 1 inch, down from the top at 1 inch. Okay, so I went down from the top at 1 inch, over from the bottom at 1 inch. This is the same thing we did with the cardstock that we're doing with the designer series paper, but these are 3 1/8 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to go from that 1 inch mark to that corner. And then from that 1 inch mark to this 1 inch mark. And then that will fit right into there perfectly. And so that's going to give me my border equal all the way around. So then when I do this side, I want kind of the same thing. I want to teach myself where it's going to go. There it is. That it's going to come down 1 inch over here and over 1 inch here. So I just have to think about that as I'm doing it so that my angles are the right way. So to go on this side, I'm making sure I'm leaving this side whole. I'm coming down 1 inch over here and coming over 1 inch here. And of course, all the diagrams and full instructions and measurements and all of that are in my book. So if any of you out there have my book, you can find this in there. And it will give you all of these measurements and print and diagram instructions. Okay, so there is our 2 sides. These little scraps, I'm going to get out of my way. And of course, if you can still see the pencil marks at all, they erase easily enough. Now I could, yeah, I could have used the other side of the designer series paper. That would have looked really pretty too. But I cut the angles in the right direction to do it the way I first intended, so we'll leave it there. I just thought that gray was really pretty. Sometimes that's the problem with designer series paper. Both sides are pretty and I have trouble deciding which one to use. But I decided to go with the 2 lace patterns so that they complement one another. There's actually 4 lace patterns in this paper pack, this country lace. We have our basic beige, the petal pink, smoky slate, and then there is misty moonlight. So they're all very pretty. Did I stamp inside? Yes, I did. Okay, so we can go ahead and we can stamp. And I want to do the stamping first because I'm always telling you guys to do that before you adhere all the pieces and glue it to the inside of your card. So I'm going to try to practice what I preach here. Bring in a block and our stamp. And I'm going to use the happy anniversary.
Someone is at the front door.
Alexa, show me the front door.
Okay.
Stop. I'm sorry, I'm going live.
What was that?
I'm live on YouTube right now, and the landlord said he was going to meet you here.
Okay.
Did you talk to him on the phone?
I did not. My office, I guess, is supposed to.
Okay, he should be on his way and should be here any minute. If he's not, I will come up as soon as I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you. Did I tell you, or did I tell you the repairman was going to show up? Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. I have an Alexa show. It's one of those ones that has the 8-inch screen. Alexa, stop. Stop. Sorry. Silly thing, wouldn't turn off. But anyway, I'm downstairs in the basement, and that has a Ring doorbell upstairs, and I'm able to tell this Alexa show to actually show me the front door, and it shows up on the little video screen. So hopefully the landlord is right around the corner. Stop. I am so sorry. Told you I was going to be frazzled. I called it. Okay, there's the inside of our card. Oh, and it turned off the desk. How about that? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so there is our card. All I did when we were messed up there was I put the stamp on the inside, on our inside layer. Then I adhered the 2 strips of this paper. They're about a inch top. And then I installed the interior of the card because I stamped before adhering, like I always tell you guys to do. Okay, so now we're ready to work with our masks. So let me grab those. As I said, these are how I'm going to color our flowers. So I'm going to use a piece that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 as my scrap paper. And then I want to kind of adhere it to the desk. And it's probably going to be better if I do it on the glass mat. Hopefully there's not much of a glare. Because I'm going to be using our blending brushes, and the blending brushes are great for on glass mat. Because the glass mat slides, and it's going to be able to let the brushes slide over, and it's going to be a much smoother experience. And I'm going to put just a little bit of adhesive, just a touch, just to make sure that it sticks there and doesn't move. And then I'm going to bring in our masks. Now these masks come in a set. And there are 5. And I don't know if you can see that, but they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there we go. I see them. Okay, so that's how they're going to lay down on our that's how they're going to lay down on our paper. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Sharpie, and I'm going to put that V up here and kind of edges so I know where this mask goes, so that when I bring in the next one, all I have to do is line up those points. And I know y'all are freaking out. I just drew on my glass mat with a permanent marker. That's okay. It's going to wash off with alcohol. Rubbing alcohol will take that right off. Or the stays on cleaner, that will work as well. But I'm going to start out with the leaves. This is mask number 5. So this time around, I'm working backwards. I'm working backwards because these have the far out points. And so that's going to show me how to center it. Had I started with mask number 1, I still could have. But based on number 1, I don't know where our far out points are. You know what I mean? The farthest up and over. Because this is more centralized. So I'm going backwards. Or because I now have this masked off, I can go forward. We can go that way because now I know where it goes in order to stay on there. And you could choose to tack this down with mint tape, with Post-it notes, anything that you want to do to hold it in place. You can do that too. I'm going to be using ink I just had, Petal Pink. So I swirled it on the ink pad first, then I'm starting on my glass mat and gliding over. This works too if you're working on paper. You still want to start off so you have your any kind of any kind of blob from the first time you set it down. You wouldn't want that to be on your project. You want that to be off on scrap paper. Another thing you could do is you could take a piece of acetate and you could use acetate underneath your project, you know, or a window sheet. They're those, remember overhead projectors had those clear plastic sheets, something like that. That works really well too. If you do that, I would suggest putting a strip of designer series paper glued to the bottom just so you don't lose it, because they have a tendency to get lost because you can't see them because they're clear. But that was step 1. So that did the base of our flowers. I did that in Petal Pink. And then the ink will just rub off with a paper towel, a Kleenex, anything like that. Then I'm going to come in with step number 2. So I'm again lining up exactly where I had the other one. And I'm coming in with the same color once again. And I'm going over. And what this is going to do is it's going to make those sections that are being highlighted once again just a little bit darker than the first layer. It's like adding a second coat of paint. Okay. So that was step number 2. And then for step number 3, we're once again doing an accent on the flowers, and you could choose it to do with the Petal Pink once again, but I chose to do it with Flirty Flamingo. So it's just kind of a complementing color. Once again, I'm lining it up, and you can kind of see a little bit by, see it's the holes inside the flowers. And once I line all those up, then I know I'm where I want to be. And then I'm just making swirling motions. And I'm swirling both directions to make sure that I filled in the whole area. So I don't know if I should maybe bring this in. Does that help at all to see how I'm lining things up? Or is the glare from the camera still bad? Okay, so there is our 3 colors of pink. Now I'm ready to move on to the leaves, which are going to be the next 2 masks. And I'm going to do those in Old Olive. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to bring in a different brush so that I have one for green inks. And I want number 4. And again, I can see how it's going to line up at the edge of the flower. See how there's that little kind of half moon? There we go. That's going to match up there. And I can see where the pieces up here are going to be the greenery in between the 2 flowers. This again, I'm making sure I'm covering up all of the pink, and it's just going to fill in the greens. So a lot of it I'm depending on the little marks that I made on the glass mat, but I'm also relying on how it's laying over my project. So it's not exactly on up here, but I'm okay with that because my project is lined up right. As I said, you may want to use a Post-it note, some Post-it tape, the mint tape, anything that's kind of a temporary adhesive that may hold your mask in place while you're working with it. Okay, so there's my first layer of green. It's gorgeous already, isn't it? And then the second one is going to line up over the top of that. And it's just going to give some accents or some veins to those leaves. So once again, I'm going to line it up. Somewhat looking at my marks on the mat, somewhat looking at how it's lining up on my project, making sure that I'm happy, and then I'm going to blend on with a second coat of the Old Olive. You either want to start on the glass or off on the mask before you get to the holes or the cutouts for the flowers, because you want it to smooth out or even out before you get to your project. And there we go. Is that gorgeous, or is that gorgeous? And then, like I said, if you wanted to, you could come and stamp over the top of it by just lining this up. You'd be able to see through the block and see through the stamp, so you could put an outline around it. You could do that in any number of colors. I would use a smoky slate, basic beige, basic gray, maybe even a black, depending on how striking you want it to be. Or you can leave it as it is, which I chose to do for today's project. Again, I wrote on the mat with the Sharpie. That will come off with rubbing alcohol or stays on cleaner. And then I had this just with a little bit of seal underneath it just to hold that in place. So again, coming in with some rubbing alcohol or undo would totally take that right off of there. But there are our flowers. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my base from my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which, by the way, both of these things are on sale 35%, or not, an extra 10% off. So you get 20% off on the Stampin' Cut, the Stamp and Die machine, the Stamp and Die bundles, or 10% off of one of the machines. So if you were interested in buying a cut and emboss machine, or you were interested in buying this bundle, the month of June is a good time to do that because it is an extra 10% off. I was thinking 35% because as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator at the Bronze Elite level, which is the basic,
Someone is at the front door.
it starts out at 25% off and it adds 10%, making it 35% off. So here is our final card. We're going to put this on the belly band. She's ringing the doorbell again. I'm going to have to go get the repair guy. And we're going to glue that in place. And then I added a little bit of Wink of Stella and it made it all done. So that is today's card. You want to come back on Monday. Monday, we're going to be doing yet another fun fold card. We're using the Thoughtful Journey Designer Series paper. And we're making another fun fold that will showcase how to use that Designer Series paper and creating a scene within a card. And that will be Monday at 2:30. We're going to go ahead and spin our wheel. And see who today's winner is, and then I have to jet. So Jeanne is our winner. Jeanne knows the drill to go to my website, queenbeecreations.net/prize patrol, and claim your prize from there. Again, thank you for joining me, and I will see you on Monday. Thank you so much.